Hi, David.
Hi, hello.
Welcome to our podcast series. We're very excited to have you.
Thank you.
All the way freshly imported from Germany. So
Correct.
really appreciate your time. I wonder, can you maybe start off with just telling the listeners a little bit more about yourself and your role at SAP?
Yeah. So my name is David Yawalkar. So I'm based in Waldorf, Germany, in the headquarters of SAP. My role is in product marketing. I'm leading a team that is responsible for the RISE with SAP offering and the solution around it. So I got members in the team taking care of all flavors of the RISE with SAP offering. I've been starting on the offering ever since it got launched almost 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So been through quite a journey, and the RISE offering is a very strategic topic within SAP. So we've been introducing a little bit of changes here and there to keep the offering current and valuable to customers. So that's what I'm doing at SAP in the headquarters of Waldorf.
That's awesome. Thanks for that. And you've just confirmed that we absolutely have exactly the right person to have this interview with.
That's good.
David, I wonder maybe we should start with, we've got such a broad landscape in the SAP environments today. We've got ECC, we've got Suite, we've got S4 hosted on hyperscalers, we've got some on RISE. It's a little bit all over the place. I'm wondering, maybe let's start with the oldest ones first and look at the ECC environment. Can you give a little bit of insight in terms of what are the maintenance dates actually for the ECC customers?
And actually you brought up a good point. I think what we need to address as SAP is that customers have various different starting points when moving to the cloud. We have customers, as you rightfully said, on ERP, different enhancement pack versions. We have them on an old 4.6c ERP system. We have S4HANA on-prem customers, etc. So we have to realize that there is different ways of moving different customers depending on where they are today and helping them with the exact tools and methodologies they require to move. Looking at the ERP customers, we see customers that are on an enhancement pack level 0 through 5 on the SAP ERP ECC. This already goes out of maintenance, and many don't even know it, already end of the 2025. So the 31st December of 2025 is when they go out of mainstream maintenance, would then transition into what we call customer-specific maintenance. Customer-specific maintenance as a consequence would mean they don't get any legal updates anymore. They get a limited or restricted amount of security patches, etc. So it's not a position we want to see our customers in. So that's why this date is very important for them. Customers on an SAP ERP ECC Enhancement Pack 6, 7, and 8, they got a bit of more time. So the timelines here are end of mainstream maintenance is by the end of 2027. They get the option to have extended maintenance until the end of 2030. Extended maintenance actually gives them the same maintenance as in mainstream maintenance, just for an extended point in time until end of 2030. And then from 2030, end of 2030 on, they go into customer-specific maintenance as well. And we advise our customers to plan their journeys ahead, as we have quite many customers that are still on an SAP ERP ECC system, and especially our partner resources, right? If all customers decide just by the end of 2025, we're getting into a bottleneck of these projects needing to happen to get them to S4HANA. So these are the timelines for our ECC customers.
And thanks for that. That's very important. I think we're going to get back to that when we talk about the options that there are for the move to RISE, because for someone planning their journey, it might have an impact on how they progress. And the sequence at which they go to the next and the next and the next version.
Correct.
So what are the offers at the moment? So let's look at a customer who's on ECC. They might be on Enhancement Pack 6. They are now thinking, okay, but hang on, we might have support until 2030, but it's tedious. We have to maintain all this stuff ourselves. It's a big drama every time we want to upgrade. We want to consider RISE. What are the different options for that customer?
So even besides RISE, from a go-to-market strategy, we have 2 offerings for S4HANA in the cloud. We have the Grow with SAP offering. This is more for net new customers who really want to run on an industry standard. They want to run on best practices. They want to adhere to a standard. So that is Grow with SAP, a true SaaS solution. So it's our S/4HANA Public Cloud Edition.
Okay.
And then we have RISE with SAP. This is the solution you just mentioned, which is mainly focused on our installed base ERP customers, as they very well know the SAP landscape. And they want to retain some of their investments. They want to still modernize and transform, but they want to keep investments. They want to run on their own standard. And this is what we have RISE with SAP. And this is our S/4HANA Private Cloud Edition. So we are having two products for S/4HANA in the cloud. They are similarly important to SAP. So SAP has different development teams looking after both products equally. As we know that customers have different journeys, they are adhering to different markets. So as I said, Grow with SAP, mainly net new names, but also existing customers that want to fully transform their business and go to a true SaaS solution, and RISE with SAP for more the existing installed base customers. On top of that, obviously customers can choose, and we see that happening as well, to mix these both solutions from the standpoint that they say, well, I'm a large enterprise, I have subsidiaries that are smaller subsidiaries that I want to keep more on an industry standard. So this is where we would tell them, go for a two-tier scenario, for example, keep your core, your headquarters on RISE with SAP in the private cloud, but you can still go with your subsidiaries in Grow with SAP on the public cloud solution.
So you've got a hybrid solution, which is fantastic, because if you take some of the processes that might be standard, and I think your example is a very good one of subsidiaries who you might want to enable quickly, and there's definitely a case to be had for standard processes. So you could have all those processes in public cloud, which means that you get that constant renewal, that innovation coming in, and you need to just keep up with the technology and adopt it fast enough. But it's a very different conversation.
That is true. Yeah,
it's a very, very different conversation.
And especially in the public cloud, it's a faster pace. It's a continuous innovation. Whereas in RISE with SAP in the private cloud, customers have more control, so they can decide when to upgrade, if to upgrade. We require them to be in mainstream maintenance. We really want them to upgrade more frequently.
Yes.
That's why we want them to adhere to what we call the clean core principles. We especially see, even on the S/4HANA on-premise side, customers not upgrading as frequently as we want them to, because they modify the system, they build extensions which are highly complex, especially when it comes then to an upgrade projects to retain them. That's why we are also having that clean core principle out in the market in the RISE with SAP context. So we really want these existing customers that go to RISE with SAP also to transform and modernize. And to us, it's a win-win, right? If we build new innovations like AI, like sustainability, and our customers are not upgrading and not getting to that release where they can adopt these innovations, then it's also not good for us. That's why to us, it's a win when we get customers current, and the customers, it's a win that they always get the new innovations coming in. So overall in RISE with SAP, we really, really want our customers to upgrade as well, but they are in more of a control. They can customize more. They would be allowed to modify, but we really want customers to follow a zero modification policy in their company and track that. So that's what's important for us even in that RISE with SAP offering.
Okay, perfect. So I'd like to get back to the clean core discussion. I'm going to park that for a second and just go back to the Grow conversation. Because what I'm wondering now is, with the Business One customers, do you think they might look at a Grow now and say, but actually, if it means adopting standard processes and our business can fit with that, would there be a case for that?
So certainly this can be a case for B1 customers as well, looking at the Grow with SAP offering, depending on also the commercial fit of the offering, right? It starts at an entry level of, I believe we just put it down to 15 full user equivalents to enter Grow with SAP.
Sure.
So we're trying to make it very much attractive also to the lower mid-market, whereas with RISE with SAP, we are lifting the bar a bit higher with 60 full user equivalents as a starting point to go into the offering. So certainly Grow is for the smaller customers, the net new names, the customers that are willing to fully adhere to an industry standard, that's for sure.
But that's phenomenal, because that is true software as a service. Because now, as a small company, I don't have to invest in all the hardware. I don't have to worry about managing cloud stuff myself. I can literally, I don't want to make it sound simplistic, but I can Facebook my SAP environment.
At best, we want both of our customers, Grow and RISE, to fully focus on their business side of the house, right? So we are taking care also in RISE with SAP on the full operations of the offering. We are taking care of the infrastructure, so we are working with the hyperscalers together. Also in RISE with SAP, we have the hyperscalers in as the infrastructure layer. We have the operating system and the operations piece all from SAP out of one hand, and only the customers come in on the business application layer. This is where we want to have our customers, but also work with our partner ecosystem, that they help the customers to transform their business processes, that they help to look at renewing the business processes, keeping them always up to date, keeping them flexible, adopting new innovations. This is what we want customers to focus on. We don't want them to focus on keeping the system up and running. We don't want them focus on keeping the system secure and compliant. This is what we as SAP do in the cloud for both of our customers in Grow with SAP and RISE with SAP.
And that's a big game changer, because if I take the S4 customers at the moment who are, I just call it having SAP on someone else's computer. So they are hosting on a hyperscaler, but it's not a true cloud solution, in that they're still very much responsible for the maintenance of that system. So it's still quite clunky in terms of the technical resources and work required.
And it depends on what is the agreement with the hyperscaler, how far does the hyperscaler go in the operations piece, right? And this is where we are pursuing our value proposition with RISE with SAP, to get also everything out of one hand, and there's no finger pointing between the infrastructure layer having a problem versus the application having a problem. So with RISE with SAP, we are putting that all on one contract. We are continuously working on including more standard services into RISE with SAP. So the operations piece is very, very important to us, and this is where we heavily focus on. That's why we also try to work together with the hyperscalers to obviously work with them as the infrastructure provider, but give with SAP together work on having a service end-to-end for the customers that goes from the application layer all the way to the operations and the infrastructure on one contract. So this is where we are trying to help these customers get into that model to focus on their business application itself.
Perfect. So I'm going to sketch a scenario, and then maybe you can advise on what would be, the options for that scenario. So say I'm a suite customer, so I've got ECC on a HANA database, and I would like to explore the RISE journey. I have got some processes that I think I can consume from the public cloud, because I actually want the innovation in those spaces, but the others I'm really just not comfortable with, because there's such a high level of customization that I require on a process level, not necessarily in the technology, but I do have some customization that I want to keep, and it just feels like I've got more control if it's in a private cloud. Do I get to choose my hyperscaler?
So generally with that scenario, you would be able to choose your hyperscaler first of all. I think we have to also see if it's one system only, you need to make a choice for the system as such, right? Do you go to RISE with SAP with that system, or do you go to Grow with SAP? If you have a system landscape with 3 or 4 systems, you can then say, well, this is my subsidiary, I'm more standardized here, I'm willing to maybe fully transform because it's a very old legacy system. The historical data is anyway not up to date anymore, and I want to go into a full transformation. Then with that system you could go into Grow with SAP, and with the system you just mentioned where you want to keep some of the customizations or maybe partner add-ons that you've heavily invested on that you do want to keep, you could go to the RISE with SAP offering. What's important to distinguish is in Grow with SAP, the only way to enter is a new implementation. In RISE with SAP, you have 3 options. You have a choice of, do I go with a new implementation? Do I go with a system conversion? That depends on many factors. Do you see your old system rather as a burden, or do you see it as an asset, right? Do you see your old data being in a good data quality, or do you have bad data quality? Is your system future-proof? So do you think you can transform with that system? Are your org structures rightfully set up? Is your master data clean, right? If that's the case, you can do a system conversion. If you say, I anyway need to transform my org structure, you would go for a new implementation. Also, with all the custom coding you have, do you have a lot of custom coding that you do want to keep? Then you can go with the system conversion. Do you want to anyway not take all of that custom code into the cloud with you? Because we see many customers having a lot of custom code that isn't used for a while now. You would need to look at that before you move, and then even do a new implementation. And what we see customers, if we're looking at a ratio, we have a 50-50 between new implementation and system conversion. The last option is a selective data transition. So if you have multiple systems, you selectively transition data into a new S/4HANA system, but that is very complex. We see only the very large customers that also do then longer projects to go for a selective data transition. But in a nutshell, just to summarize, grow with SAP, only new implementation; RISE with SAP, new implementation, system conversion, and selective data transition to go into the cloud.
Okay. Thanks for clearing that up.
Sure.
I think this is going to be very valuable for many of the SAP customers locally, for certain. Let's get back a bit to the clean core conversation. So why is this such a big deal?
Yeah. So, and we've made quite a big buzz about it. So there have been even jokes when customers come to Waldorf that they counting how many times did SAP mention the term clean core. So we had a customer that said, "Oh, counted 68 times today, SAP telling us about clean core," and they're making a bingo game out of it. But you can see how important that is to us, and why we do it is because we see customers that are not innovating because they're stuck, because their systems are highly modified, because their systems are and their integrations are not built in a clean way that support their future business. They're not using whitelisted APIs. They're not archiving their data. So this is where we see customers telling us they are not upgrading, or they cannot upgrade because they see this as a years of a project and which they have no resources nor the time to invest into. And this is why, especially in RISE with SAP, if we are allow kind of complexity in the cloud, we really do not want to have customers end up in that same complexity. That's why we are preaching about this clean core quite a bit. It's got 5 dimensions. So we talk about data, keep your data clean, always look at your data, archive your data if possible, if it's not required anymore. Your integrations, use whitelisted APIs for your integrations, build clean, what we call clean integrations. We have guidance on what that means. Try to avoid modifications as much as possible. And if you do extend, then use the business technology platform to try keep it out of the core as much as possible. Try to keep your processes flexible as a 4th point. So try to always use also SAP Signavio to look at your processes over and over again, keep them flexible, not look at them when you implement and then don't touch them again, continuously monitor them. And then the operations piece is the 5th dimension of clean core, where it also helps us to operate the system much more efficiently and help the customer then to focus fully on their business. So that's why we're making quite a big buzz out of that. Public cloud, so grow with SAP, has more restrictions, so it's easier to adhere to a clean core. As with RISE with SAP, we're kind of allowing complexity. We really want to not have customers ending up in the complexity, and therefore give that guidance. Also new with RISE with SAP, customers get access in SAP for me at a clean core dashboard. So they, at any given point in time, they see how many modifications have I done to the systems, how many lines of custom code do I have in the system, so that they continuously have that awareness and can also make active decisions to move away from modifying and extending in a non-standard way. So that's a longer answer to the clean core buzz question.
But it's one that makes sense. I'm just wondering, from an enterprise architecture perspective, that is often a challenge, because to find resources to understand how that architecture fits together.
Correct.
And it's often not the type of resource that that makes sense to perhaps employ full-time because they're not, for a company, you would make use of a partner, and then you've got people who move around, and you've got all these other integrations and systems and things. What is there that can help me as a customer from an enterprise architecture perspective?
Yeah, so overall we're putting out a lot of guidance, also guides and methodologies around how to best adhere to a clean core, but not only in the clean core context, but also in how to implement. We got the feedback that SAP's got a lot of tools and a lot of architecture guidance, but it's very scattered around SAP and fragmented. That's why we are now putting together and have put together something that we call the RISE methodology, and also the RISE migration program. This is where we're trying to guide our customers at every given point in time of the projects, what tools to use, what resources to use at a given point in time, what principles to follow, what outcome of which tools to take forward, and how to deal with them. So we are having that RISE methodology and the migration program. You see a very large web presence that we've worked on sap.com for that, to guide customers, to give more of a helping hand on the architecture, on how to move, when to move, what things to consider, because that's the feedback we've gotten, that we have a lot of nice tools. We have the readiness check, we have the custom code analyzer, but customers were some kind of lost when to use which tool and in which part of their journey. And this is what this migration program addresses, and the RISE methodology is addressing to them as well.
Okay. That's awesome. Thanks for that. I definitely do think that will help, because you are right. It's, to find any information is sometimes you get stuck in analysis paralysis.
Yeah, we do have a lot. Yeah.
There certainly is a lot out there, even in the training sphere as well. There's a whole lot of stuff, not all of it equally easy to do something with. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, that's why we need to do a better job, and this is why this is a big focus area for us to guide customers. Also with RISE with SAP, what customers do get is what we call embedded launch activity. So it's a service from SAP showing the customers, well, this is included in RISE, this is what you should be using, this is important at that given point in time. So we are trying to guide customers more, trying to more implement a service into all our offerings, so that customers get more guidance from SAP. I think it's clear for them that what the end goal is, and often they say, it's clear to me to go to S/4HANA. Yes, SAP, you've told me that, but it's the how do I get there, and it's how do I do that most efficiently, is what their problems are, and this is what we need to address.
So David, we've spoken about some of the dates. We've spoken about 2025, 2027, 2030. How about customers who are on an S4 solution on a hyperscaler, but they're not on S/4HANA Cloud?
So generally S/4HANA, and they're using the on-premise product version on the hyperscaler. This has a maintenance of at least until 2040. So this is committed for that version for on-premise, but also for RISE with SAP in the private cloud. So it's using the same date of at least 2040, right? So this is the date we have out there today. We have recently also changed the innovation cycle and the release cycle of S/4HANA. So since 2023, we are delivering a new S/4HANA release every 2 years instead of every year. We're having 4 feature packs in between, twice a year. And customers, and that's a big benefit from the 2023 release onwards, get 7 years of maintenance instead of 5 years of maintenance. So that is for both customers using the on-prem product on a hyperscaler, the on-prem product in their own data center, or in RISE with SAP, that these maintenance timelines are essentially the same, right? Where we differentiate and where SAP has made a strategic decision is that certain innovations, as they're strategic and mostly we see that they best implemented in the cloud and most efficiently implemented in the cloud, we are only giving them to the RISE with SAP customers. So especially focusing on AI or sustainability, these are strategic, what we call strategic cloud innovations. So not only for RISE, obviously also for Grow with SAP, right? But for our cloud solutions, this is the differentiation also to customers using the on-premise product. in an on-premise scenario?
I can imagine, because firstly, all those AI tools, if you've got a more consistent technology architecture, it does seem that they would be easier to deploy. But the other thing is also the amount of control that an SAP customer with an on-prem license has. I don't know how that would work with those AI innovations being put on.
And we want to ensure that they're getting adopted. That's why we want customers, following up on that clean core principle, that are in RISE, they have a better chance of even receiving and getting to them if they're available in the newest release, right? So this is why it's important to us. It's customers that can fully focus on their business process and not keeping the system up and running. So it's all kinds of things when SAP is in a bit more control, that we see more value for customers than adopting to these latest innovations. And that's where we just made that strategic decision.
It does seem, though, that from an investment perspective, it changes the every 5 years big CapEx investment conversation. Because if you're going into an environment where it is clean core, you're constantly maintaining these updates, you wouldn't necessarily need a big CapEx investment for a jump to the next version.
You just go into the OpEx mode, you upgrade your system frequently, right? And as frequently as possible. So you are in a continuous subscription that then goes into a renewal cycle, either after 3 or after 5 years. That really depends on the customer, on what's the contractual model for them. But I agree with you. So they transform into an OpEx model from a
It's a very different conversation that to have it around a boardroom table.
Correct.
And how about, let's talk about all the good stuff that is coming. So I can understand that customers are probably holding back the innovation in a way because the landscape is so disparate at the moment, and to spend all these resources to try and keep all of that sane must be quite taxing. So what are some of the benefits? I mean, we've spoken about some of the AI things. How do you see those translating into transforming businesses and the way they operate?
So first of all, in both Grow and RISE with SAP, we don't only have the S/4HANA product versions that we talked about included, we have other SAP solutions that we see strategic for customers to use during a transformation included in these offerings. So RISE with SAP, as an example, it includes SAP Signavio to look at the processes continuously. We have the business technology platform included with quite a big impact, credits for the platform, certain applications that are on the platform to use. That's why as we preaching about clean core, we need the business technology platform for customers to use and to move certain extensions out on the platform to drive their own application building on the platform. We have sustainability scenarios in RISE. We are differentiating RISE in a base offering, a premium offering, and a premium plus offering. In the premium plus offering, you get the most of the software entitlements in addition to S4. So as I said, sustainability, you get access to AI credits so that you can use these AI credits against AI scenarios. For example, our digital assistant Joule is coming out very soon that they can use as well. We're having finance capabilities included in RISE with SAP. We're having, for the business networks, our supplier portal included in the Premium Plus version of SAP. So what's important to say is that RISE with SAP is, of course, mainly customers purchase it for S/4HANA, but it gives more, and especially the things that we think are strategic for a transformation. Clean core, you need the business technology platform. For flexible and up-to-date business processes, you need SAP Signavio. So all these things, this is why we are including them in one offering, as we find them strategic for any customer's transformation.
That's all very exciting, and I especially like the SAP Signavio conversation as well, because when you implement, especially if you've got that from the start, I think it would be so much easier for Signavio to then help guide and advise on processing. So even with clean core, you would have your standard processes, but then there might still be deviations, and it's often, if you go with SAP Signavio afterwards, then it will highlight a whole lot of things in your process that are out of kilter with how it should run, but there might be valid reasons for them. Whereas if it's in from the start, you could already filter and say, okay, but this is actually how you need to look
and we do recommend to use SAP Signavio already before moving in the pre-sale cycle. Look at your processes before you move. Try to already see where are improvement points in my processes, so that you're not implementing a process in the same way you had it before, where it may have been inefficient. So SAP Signavio plays a role in the pre-sales process, and then also once live, directly use it again to stay up to date, because in a year's time or 2 years' time, a lot has changed. There's maybe a lot of new innovation. There's a lot of business process steps that you may be able to skip now because they're part of a standard functionality. You don't need any extension. You don't need anything to run it. So that's why we see Signavio playing a role in the pre-sales cycle a lot, and then also in the continuous operations of the ERP system in the cloud. Keep on using Signavio to look at your processes all over again continuously. So this is where we see the value prop in both phases of an SAP project.
And it really is exciting, because if you look at the old days of multiple years going by in between one upgrade to the next for a customer, and if I'm a customer, I might not upgrade the next cycle. I might wait 2 or 3 years. I might push it to, and I would call it sweating my assets and all of that stuff. And in the meanwhile, I might spend time and money and resources building a whole lot of things that I now need, not
that are now in standard.
It's already there.
And I'm not saying there may be valid reasons for some customers to push out certain upgrades, right? Because they say we just cannot make it, or they really assess the new release and looked at the new innovations and they say, here there's not so much of interest to me. So there is in RISE with SAP valid reasons for customers to potentially skip an upgrade. But as you rightfully said, do that as a proactive decision, and not do that as a decision because you anyway know you cannot upgrade because your system is completely screwed up and highly modified, integrations not built in a way that you need to take months and weeks of testing after an upgrade project. So that's where you should take proactive decisions instead of reactive decisions to your state of your system.
And on the business technology platform, what kind of skills do I need as a customer if I'm doing my custom things in BTP and through BTP connecting to a whole lot of other, whether they are reporting systems or other technologies, what kind of skills do I need?
So I think the answer here is it varies. So you can have more skilled people that really build up completely new applications, also using the tools available. But you also can go with a low-code, no-code approach. We have what we call the SAP built apps that can be built in a way that they don't need a lot of coding. They can rather be done in a low-code, no-code fashion. So I think it really depends when you make use of a skilled partner to implement more sophisticated integrations using also SAP Integration Suite, which is our strategic product. And we see almost every RISE customer licensing also Integration Suite to build integrations. Or you have people who are more closer to the business processes and they can build the applications more themselves with a low-code, no-code approach using SAP built apps. So it really depends, in my opinion, on what makes more sense. But it's across the board, I would say.
And so the low-code, no-code conversation is also a good one, because I think especially with a lot of business users now becoming more tech savvy and wanting to build extensions for their own environments, they might go onto one of the other platforms that offer low-code, no-code and put something together. But now they can do that essentially.
They can do that on the business technology platform on SAP as well, right?
That is
correct. Awesome. So that's the strategy behind our platform. We want to have a powerful platform that customers use for all their extension scenarios, and especially to move away from modifying in the core and try to build everything you can on that platform. Right? Correct.
I think there's also some form of fear amongst some of the customers saying that, but if we go this route, then SAP has everything. Then we feel like we don't have that much control over our data and over our technology. How would you field those questions?
Yeah, and it's a conversation to have with every cloud offering, right? You somehow you give away your on-premise use right, and you are going into a cloud subscription where then SAP is utmost in control, right? So, I mean, I'm just emphasizing to customers that SAP is doing a lot and focusing a lot on making our customers happy customers and operating the system in a way that they'll be happy with being on RISE or grow in the cloud, that this is a step forward to move away a bit out of the control from, I mean, the benefits to not need to operate your own system anymore and to leave also security and compliance to a vendor which has all the latest security certifications, adhering to all the latest compliance standards. That comes with the fact that you go into a subscription mode and SAP takes more responsibility. So I think it's a discussion based on trust as well, for sure, right? We're having these conversations where with cloud subscriptions, obviously customers say, what do you get if you get double as expensive as you are today? And then I can either cancel and re-implement somewhere else, or I need to swallow a hefty price increase, right? These conversations are out there, right? And obviously, this is where it's based on trust and SAP being a vendor with now operating more than 100,000 systems in the cloud, right? So we have a reputation that we want to keep in the market. We are addressing all our customer requests and trying to adhere to them. So to me, it's something where I just see a handshake between the customer and SAP from my perspective.
One thing I do know is that there's probably not a lot of countries that I would trust with that type of responsibility more than I would trust the German governance.
That's good to know. Yeah. I mean, we're doing a lot of governance, and especially, for example, the topic of security, we take at utmost importance, as this is a big discussion to have with many customers also moving to the cloud. They want to exactly know, how do we do our security? How do we adhere to the latest security standards? Where do customers still get visibility report into the logs of what has SAP done is what we're also providing, for example, in RISE with SAP. So that really is a key topic for us as well. So the whole security and compliance topic, this is where we heavily invest. This is where a lot of focus needs to be on in the cloud. And as we have a reputation to lose at SAP, we're really investing into making this whole thing work.
Okay, David, is there anything that I missed in my questions? Is there anything else that you think is important for our customers and users to know?
I think it's just important to also follow our roadmap. We have an innovation roadmap out there with the latest scenarios, so it's always good to see what's coming and where SAP is investing. As I said, the main investment areas are around AI. You'll see a lot of noise around the AI topic from SAP, as we have really doubled and tripled our investments into that topic, as well as sustainability is a really big topic also in the context of Grow and RISE. So just keep an eye out on what's coming there. Really, customers should make sure to be aware on their maintenance timelines, be aware on when to move, be aware that partner capacities are scarce, especially doing so many projects. So I think we've covered a lot, and I really enjoyed that talk. And so nothing else to add from my end.
Thank you very much, David. I think what we'll also do is we did recently receive all those links in terms of where customers can go and look for for those roadmaps and what the options are. So we could link to those in the show notes as well, just so that it's easy for listeners to find. But thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me in your beautiful country. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Okay. Thank you.
Cheers.